Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to talk about anime versus comics, or mainly manga versus comics. And this is part one because I have written a part two. Hopefully I don't say the same points again, but I kind of really wanted to chime in and talk about all of this because I feel like this is a really big kind of talking point, especially since everything's kind of going on. But if you like this sort of content, then hit the like button, hit subscribe, as well as that cheeky notification bell to be notified when more videos drop. And let's jump straight into it. So first of all, I've been reading comics and manga for many years. Like literally when years and years ago, I would buy comics when I went to America and I loved it. When I found anime and stuff like that, as well as manga when I was in college, it was buying all these sorts of things because I really enjoyed reading it. One Piece, Yu-Gi-Oh, Dragon Ball Z. Absolutely fell in love with anime, manga, and everything to go around it. Same thing is like with Marvel and DC. I was more of a Marvel person, and I still am, so there's not many DC comics that I've kind of gone, oh, I really like that, I want to buy it. But mainly with Marvel, it's like there are a few comics that I've got some like really old ones which mean a lot more to me than most things, and I generally kind of really like it. But I wanted to talk about how I keep seeing a lot of people talking about manga as well as like comic books, and I kind of wanted to chime in on it. Now, I do feel that American comics, mainly Marvel and DC, are losing their charm, and we can see it when it comes to the point of, say, like how Batman is the main focus in the DC universe at the moment, where comic books are being released. Marvel is kind of doing okay, but I know that they are probably suffering and stuff like that. So back in the day, like with Marvel, I collect Black Cat, Spider-Man, Silk, Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider and stuff like that, and these are the ones that I mainly focused on. I have seen Captain Marvel and I bought a few comics back then. Wasn't really a big fan, but at least I completed the main storyline. Again, I just like for one part of the series, but I was more drawn to the Spider-Man and that sort of thing, the Spider series, because I think it's a really cool series for what they've done. Ben Reilly being a clone. Is he a clone? I don't know. Is he the real Spider-Man? No one knows. I don't think even Marvel knows at this date. But if you know, let me know down below in the comments, and also where it's been proven so I can actually check it out. I feel like over the years, manga has been taking a more dominant step. And back then when I was younger, manga was really hard to get hold of. Yeah, you had Shonen Jump, and you had some magazines that you could get. You know, if you bought it now, you'd get a Yu-Gi-Oh card or something like that, which was the main thing that I bought them for. But I feel like when it comes to anime and manga now, I feel like, yeah, it's dominating because of the stories that they tell. Manga in general doesn't give a shit effectively about what people think, and they will tell a story. They will tell you exactly what they want, and it's not going to be something where they play politics or they put stuff in, because they know how to tell stories, and that's always been a thing for me. I love the fact that manga tells a compelling story to whatever you have. If you've got Berserk, if you've got my darling, my cosplay darling, no, my dress up darling, sorry, I'm just reading the manga, or if you've got stuff like Yu-Gi-Oh or anything like that. So I feel like there's tons of stuff that you've got that tells a unique story that gets people excited. I know that quite recently, and I will say in the next video, when I've been looking at manga and buying it online, I've been more excited about buying that than I have done with comic books. And normally I'd be like, oh my god, because Black Cat would be coming out, or Spider-Man would be coming out, or something like that, when now I'm just like, I don't give a shit. Like, I collect Black Cat, Life is Strange, and Power Rangers. That's it. And even Power Rangers is good for what it is, but I feel like that is slowly slipping because they're just focusing on Mighty Morphing, because Mighty Morphing sells. What are you gonna do? What you gonna do? I feel like when it comes to comics, they follow an agenda, and I don't like that. Back in the day, it used to be stuff like, hey, I've got this amazing thing that I want to watch, right? I've got this amazing topic, all right, let's fight these bad guys, let's sort it out. But quite recently, just now, it just seems like most comic books have an agenda where it's, how do you say, it's more kind of, you know, we've got to tell you about politics, we have to tell you that you're a bad person, we have to kind of educate everyone. And I can understand to some degree that it's all right, but me personally, if I'm reading a comic book, I don't want to get halfway through and then someone says that men or women or this or that are bad, and therefore it gives me a lecture. And I believe that in one of the X-Men comics, all they do is have a dinner party, and I'm like, why would you want to read shit like that? Like, that doesn't. Is it an exciting dinner party? Do things break in and destroy stuff, or is it to the point where they just want to have you sit down for 6-7 episodes, 1,000 episodes, or sorry, issues, and then go, right, yeah, I've read that. I just don't care. You know, I feel like when you have comic books, like the American audience that has the most input has to turn around and has to prove stuff to you. Well, you have to turn around and tell me, like, in issue thingy, this is happening, or I need to know the agenda of that person, or I need to know who they are banging and who they're having sex with and what they're doing that way. Why do I need to know? I want to see people fight. I want to see some things be brought up, but I don't give a crap about who's dating who or whatnot. I think this is where manga is. Now, they did a poll, this was ages ago, and they did their research into how 10% of people who buy comics will buy, like, that use Twitter. And majority of the time is people that complain and go, hey, I want this in it, and if this is not in it, then you are a misogynist, you are this, you're sexist, you're racist, you're this, you're that, you're an istophobe, you're an ista, or you're a whatever phobe, whatever. And it gets to me that these American companies take on board and go, hey, do you know what? We're going to listen to them. And then that person doesn't even buy the book. I think it'd be really interesting if loads of people came up and said, look, yeah, okay, I want this change. I want this person to be this. I want that person to be that. And they go, okay, we'll make the changes, but you have to buy the comic. You have to show us that we've done it. Otherwise, whatever. Because I feel like people on Twitter, when they argue, it's more like, I'm not going to buy it. Why would I buy it when this has happened? It's like, but the change has happened for you, for what you are doing. And that irritates me on so many levels, where someone can control the narrative, but yet when they try to do it to Japan, they go, fuck no, we're doing what we want. And that I have more respect for than anything. And yeah, it just makes me laugh, because I think Marvel, DC, or any other comic books thinks that, you know, Twitter is their world. Like, oh my god, someone said they're not buying our comic book. That's 1,000 sales, just down the toilet. What are you doing? Get out of here. Get out of here. Type thing. And that's it. It just gets me on so many levels. I think the main part of this is that readers don't want me to be made to feel bad. That, you know, they get their favorite superhero, they're reading it, and then it turns around and says, you're a bad person. And they go, oh, okay, am I really that bad? Even when they're not. And it's this whole agenda that gets pushed onto people. We've seen it in media when it comes to films. If it doesn't have this sort of thing, if you're not talking about that sort of thing, it just makes people go, what the fuck? Like, you know, you have to feel bad for not doing this and not doing more. And it's like, they could be doing all that they can, and yet they're being made to feel bad. It doesn't sit right. And as I said, when it comes to Japan, they don't care about this. When it comes to America, though, it's the number one thing out there. Now, I just recently watched Jessica Jones from season 1, or maybe from season 2 to season 3, and I really liked it. I really like it. It's one of my favorite Marvel TV shows. But when it came to the comic books, I was always intrigued, because when it first came out, I was like, right, I need to look into this. And I didn't like the art style, but I wouldn't complain about the story if the art style wasn't my thing, because it's not. I generally like it. I would read it if I was in a library or something, but I wouldn't buy the comic books, and that's just because of the art style. I like certain arts than most, mainly the anime type thing or the manga type thing. I really like that a lot more, because I feel like you can tell more to it. There's some comic books that have some really nice artwork, don't get me wrong, but there are times where I just had to step back and go, oh, this has put me off. But I wouldn't go to Twitter and tell people off, be like, make this better, this art style shit, and then complain about the whole thing about Jessica Jones. Or if I jumped into the comic book thinking, oh, it's going to be not like the TV series, and it's like, oh shit, it is like the TV series, I wouldn't demand that they put it. I mean, I don't even demand that they put in, like, say, British politics, because no one cares. When you're reading a comic book, you want to read a comic book. I don't want to read about Brexit, and I don't want to read about the election or what the Conservative Party or the Labour Party are doing. I want to watch my stuff, or read my stuff, should I say. I think in general, that the comic book industry is ridiculously in trouble, and it's slowly seeing. I mean, I think that with DC, we all know that Batman is the cash cow of the franchise. But when the fact is that all your comic books, or majority of them, are all Batman related, then I think that's a big problem, because why? Like, if it's not selling, and you'll get Batman fatigue. Like, I would hate it if it was like all like this year or all next year, and it was just Batman, and that was it. I would be like, as if I was a big Batman fan, I'd be like, I'm not gonna collect all of this. Like, there has to be some sort of limit, or the fact is there's too much of the same thing where I'm like, hey, I want to watch Superman, or so why does I keep watching? I want to read Superman, I want to read Green Lantern, I want to read, you know, Plastic Man or The Flash or something like that. But yet all I can find is just Batman. I would be like, I'm not particularly really bothered. And it means that, you know, Marvel could step in and go, well, okay, well, if you're going to just produce Batman, we're going to produce all our other characters. And people like it. And people go, okay, I'm going to go read that more, because I have a selection rather than being told I have only one. And that is Batman, where I'm just like, I'm bored of Batman. So it would, to me, I feel like when this sort of stuff happens, you can see that the industry is slowly declining. And especially since what stuff has been happening with like the moving offices, or the fact is that no one cares, or a certain film is just boring, then you kind of think, DC, sort your shit out, or just literally can it in. I kind of think all the writers need to calm their shit when it comes to stuff online. And I feel like the whole thing with the Superman coming, or his son coming out as bi, that's absolutely fine. But I think it was the way that the writer, like the main guy, was going about it, which really kind of put me off even wanting to look into it properly. And it's just the way that if someone comes out and gives him criticism, and he just comes out with "fuck you" type thing, it puts me off wanting to read it. Now, if the same thing happened with Black Cat, or with Spider-Man, or with any of the other Iron Man, Hulk, whatever, I would still think the same, because I don't want these writers to come out and tell me I'm a bad person, or that I need to do this or do that, or they just fuck something up and then think it's the best stuff. Because the thing is, numbers are a thing. If I go look at how many sales of this one book comes out, and it's like 2-3 issues, and the writer's like, I'm the best, it did well in this month, but yeah, but that's 1 month. That's like working in retail at a cell phone company or mobile phone company and going, last month I made the best sales, so this month I'm fine. And they're going, could you not? Like, you need to keep this consistent. And I feel like mainly that the writer who did that for Superman just literally went, yeah, I did good, I did something to fuck you guys over, to make you, like, if you dare complain about this, then you are this or that. And then now it's like he's the bee's knees, when it's like, really, are you? How are those other books selling? Are they there? Isn't it? I think like his book was like in the top 50. It was quite high, you know, from when Superman came out type thing. And then all of a sudden later, the rest of the books weren't even on the list. So you kind of think, if you're not making the top 50 every week or every month or whatever, regardless of sales anywhere else, if they've not categorizing it properly, then show something. Stop being Billy Big Balls, and actually just kind of be humble and go, okay, cool, we need to keep this memento, because at the moment I don't see it happening. For manga artists, I don't see that actually happening. If they have a dispute or whatever, I feel like they're more reserved, that they don't go on because they know that their jobs are on the line, or the fact is that they know that that's not how to sell. And you can see the fact that manga is dominating like the comic book industry right now, and like not even DC or Marvel can really kind of figure out and go, hey, I want to learn about this. So I kind of think, why, just in general, why don't you look at the work ethic and see how that works? Because if Japan can do it and do it consistently, you know, with Chainsaw Man, Berserk, with loads of different things, why aren't you taking a leap from that book and go, okay, let's look over and see what's been going on so we can sort this shit out? Because I can see both companies just fucking up. Marvel will probably be okay, but DC, I just see down the toilet, because all their stuff right now is just trash coming out. When it comes to manga, mainly in general, I find their stories 10 times more interesting. I started reading My Hero Academia, and I got really interested in watching that. Does a hot elf live next door to you? I got very invested in that. My Dress Up Darling, I got very invested in that. And there are other mangas that I've read, even light novels, that I've gone, hell, I want to go buy as much as I can. I want to consume the media. I want this that they have on offer. And I feel now that it gets to the point where, you know, comic books aren't that great. They're kind of boring all the way through. And for me to say that, because I love reading these things, I love collecting them, but to the point now, I'm just like, do I want to spend my money on comics? I started reading Black Cat, King in Black, and it was the whole symbiote thing that was going on. And I find that interesting, but at times with a main story, I don't want to have to go buy 1,001 issues or 10 other issues of this story to get the full picture. With manga in general, they tell the entire story. You don't see like things in the comic book or in the manga going, hey, if you want to know what happened in this one, please read blah de blah blah issue 3 or refer to that, where manga contains the story in one go. Now, sometimes it's fine if I want to go look at, say, Spider-Man this issue or Venom this issue, but I don't want to have to go and buy loads of them for one small reference, because it just irritates me on like so many levels for that. So I think manga wins in that one because they tell you the story from A to B or A to Z, rather than comic books going A to F to X to Y to D to C to B. It's just so confusing at times. As I mentioned before, I feel like Marvel and DC are listening to Twitter, and yet again, it doesn't matter if someone's gonna shout out or something like that, because I feel sometimes if a company stands up and says, hey, I kind of really want this, then let you stand out rather than anything. I also, with the artwork as well, like I've seen stuff with Captain Marvel, and you know, I think quite recently some of the newer stuff, and it really puts me off. And I feel that sometimes, like if some artists are like, what do you think, and they go, could you redraw it, like instantly the artist is gonna go, what the actual fuck are you talking about? You know, how dare you, this is my art and this is it. You're being paid to do a job. So if the art isn't that great, get them to redo it and say, we want it more like this, or we want it more like that. And rather than the person going like, I'm gonna take this to Twitter and blah 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 and get a following behind them, I feel like Marvel, especially with most of their stuff, needs to have a certain art style that carries on, that isn't something that can, you know, look bad, because at the end of the day, people want to read and have good artwork. And again, this is where manga, even though it has the same sort of kind of element all the way through, or a certain style all the way through, people enjoy it because it's easy on the eyes and people enjoy it. Like if I see something bad that I don't like, I won't buy it, and I'll be like, I don't need this anymore. So yeah, I don't know, like if someone's getting really kind of like, how do I say, if they get kind of like hurt because their artwork isn't accepted, then they need to either work on it more or listen to what their boss says, rather than just kind of go with it. It's like the whole, people go like, oh, you know, someone, a participation part, it's like participation trophies. People complain about that, but I think sometimes with artists that they're like, yeah, this is my art, this is what I want, and it's like, no. So I think they need to stop here. Stop with the politics. I'm getting bored with politics. I've seen it in the DC shows. So I think we should stop the politics, because at the end of the day, it's just driving people away. If people aren't buying your books, then your book gets cancelled and no one cares, and the company just loses money, and someone else will come in and pick up the slack. Personally, at the end of the day, to kind of wrap all of this up, is I feel that if you want to make money, make what the customers want. They are your target audience, not someone on Twitter that has just joined up like 2 months ago and is bashing you, that has no like kind of following. Or even if people do have massive followings, at the end of the day, your customers come first, so make it for it. Do I see the comic book industry lasting long? No. I see within maybe 2 to 4 years that it starts crumbling, and we can start seeing it right now. And I feel like DC Comics will be the first to fall. And as soon as that does, I feel like that will be a wake-up call for Marvel. Even though Marvel is backed by Disney, I think that Disney will look at it and go, oh, do we want this anymore? So I feel like that's going to be one thing that happens. But right now, I generally think that the comic book industry is in a lot of danger. And I think the manga industry is skyrocketing and it's doing it right. because I think as of recording this video, which is the 28th of the 3rd, again, it'll probably come out a bit later, like My Dress Up Darling has had over, I think, 5.5 million copies sold. It's sold out everywhere. I believe me, I've tried finding issues 1 and 3 or volumes 1 and 3, very hard to find. But I do believe right now that the whole comic book industry is in danger and it will fall apart very, very soon. Once DC goes, guarantee the domino effect will start, and that's not what I want to see, because I want to see DC thrive again. I want to see Marvel thrive again. But get rid of politics, get rid of listening to people on Twitter that will not buy your book, and listen to the customers that will buy your book. I might make some more videos. I have one written up about this that will come up later on, which will probably talk a bit more. But apart from that, I just kind of want to leave it there. What are your thoughts? Do you think that the comic book industry is in danger? Do you feel like it's going to go down? Let me know down below in the comments. And if you like this sort of content and you want to hear and see more, hit the like button, hit subscribe, as well as that cheeky notification bell. If I don't see you tomorrow, then I will see you in a couple of days.
チャンネルをサポートしてくれてありがとうございます。チャンネル登録、高評価お願いします。以下のリンクから商品を入手することができます。